Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I keep you up to date with everything happening in the game industry, and hope everybody had a good and safe weekend. I myself finished up Ori and the Will of Wisps, and wow, that game truly is a masterpiece, and arguably the best Metroidvania game to ever be made. That's not even an exaggeration either, but of course, Doom Eternal as well as Animal Crossing New Horizons also released this last weekend, so hey, maybe you're enjoying one of those games. Nonetheless, we do have a lot to talk about today. Nintendo seems pretty upset with Sony over Media Molecule's newest game, Dreams, and have filed a copyright claim for Nintendo-related content made within Dreams, so we will be talking about that. We also have some more news on the Xbox Series X and the specs inside, as well as an update on PlayStation 5's backwards compatibility. Before we get into all that though, let's take a look at some of the other updates across the industry, starting off with Half-Life Alyx, which just released today. Half-Life Alyx already got off to a hot start, both in terms of critical acclaim as well as its sales numbers. Yes, that's right, Half-Life Alyx is sitting at a 92 overall average score on Metacritic as of this video. Of course, that can change, but it sounds like Half-Life Alyx will be a must-have for both Half-Life fans, as well as any VR headset owner on PC. And well, that really is the next part of this, because according to Game Tracker, Half-Life Alyx has already sold more than 300,000 copies ahead of the actual release, so this will be even higher now that it is officially out. I don't really think this is too surprising though, just because, we have been keeping track of this closely on the channel, and I've reported on multiple occasions that the Valve Index virtual reality headset has been selling out since the announcement of Half-Life Alyx. That isn't just with the Valve Index either, because Oculus Rift headsets was also in very high demand over the holidays, and scalpers of course were trying to sell those things for double the price because they were in such high demand. I think if anything, this just kind of goes to show you how much fans have wanted a new Half-Life game, and really it's a franchise that should have never been on such a long hiatus. Of course, I could talk about this all day, but it is nice to see Alyx not only sell so well, but it's also being received very well in terms of reviews. This really sounds like a high quality virtual reality title, and this could be a breakout hit for virtual reality headsets. I do think after today, with people seeing Half-Life Alyx, and how well it's doing, there is going to be another wave of fans rushing out to buy a new VR headset. And do remember that you don't have to buy the Valve Index to play Half-Life Alyx. I myself use the Oculus Rift S, but you don't even have to use that either. There are affordable VR headsets out there if you do want to play Half-Life, and I myself cannot wait to play it. I haven't yet got to play it myself because I am releasing this video first, but I guarantee you, as soon as this video uploads, I'm playing Half-Life Alyx. Now moving on, Stalker 2 got a small update. This isn't earth-shattering or anything, but we have now gotten our first glimpse at Stalker 2 with a brand new screenshot. There isn't really too much to report on when it comes to this picture alone, but you can see some kind of teleportation rift or supernatural activity here. I'm not really sure of exactly what we're looking at. Really though, what my biggest takeaway from this screenshot is that Stalker 2 is actually happening. When it first got reported on about a year or two ago, a lot of the game community was still questioning if it was actually going to happen, and now it really does look like it will be. Of course, Stalker is one of the most atmospheric franchises of all time, and that's really the thing they're going to want to nail in the new one as well. We will have to wait and see on that, and one other thing that I'll be closely paying attention to is what platforms will Stalker 2 be available on. So far, Stalker really is viewed as a PC franchise, but could we see an announcement for the Series X and the PlayStation 5 as well? I certainly hope so. I think that they will, but we'll wait and see on that. And speaking of the PlayStation 5, Sony did post an update regarding backwards compatibility on the PlayStation 5. After last week's deep dive into the PlayStation 5 specs and, well, mostly the solid-state drive, Sony seemed either confused or something regarding backwards compatibility. I don't know if it was just their messaging, but Mark Cerny led fans to believe that only a handful of PlayStation 4 games would work at the launch of PlayStation 5. His wording was that most of the top 100 most popular games on the PlayStation 4 would work at launch, and after that, games would come to backwards compatibility on a game-by-game basis. Well, fans certainly weren't happy about that, but Sony has now posted an update to clear some of that confusion, and this is what they had to say. We believe that the overwhelmingly majority of 4,000 plus PlayStation 4 titles will be available on the PS5. We have already tested hundreds of titles and are preparing to test thousands more as we move toward launch. So there you have it. PlayStation 5 will have at least hundreds of backwards compatible games at launch, and more than likely thousands. Now, Xbox also stated something very similar, so there probably will be a very select few Xbox One and PlayStation 4 games that will not work at launch. I imagine these games will be extremely rare and probably very unknown games. I think with Sony's wording though, the one thing that does worry me is that Cerny seems to be implying that some of the more popular PlayStation 4 games won't work at launch, considering he said that most of the top 100 would. I guess we'll have to wait and see what makes it and what doesn't. But moving on over to Xbox, there was an update on the Series X over the weekend, and I think ever since Sony announced the PlayStation 5 specs, there has been a lot of misinformation floating out there as some of the more quote-unquote hardcore fans or maybe trying to mislead the community. But for some reason, fans started latching onto the idea that the Series X was going to use some of its computing power for audio processing, which would make the Series X and PlayStation 5 a little bit more equal in terms of its teraflops. Well, that's completely fabricated because Microsoft has unveiled that the Series X will have a dedicated audio chip, so yes, those 12 teraflops of GPU power will be sustained without helping the audio processing. Xbox also revealed that they will be using acoustic audio ray tracing, so do expect a big jump in terms of audio quality for both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X compared to this generation of consoles. And that is something interesting going on right now because I'm seeing a lot of fans kind of talk about the PlayStation 5's Tempest engine since its reveal and how it will be unparalleled. Well, the thing about that is Dolby Atmos called Sony out saying that they can do the same thing as the Tempest engine and that they can support hundreds of objects. Though I will say this, Sony is planning on having no extra equipment, but however, in order to get this to work, you may have to send a picture of your ears to Sony. I mean, at least that's what's being reported right now. And that may seem a little odd, but it might be a nice workaround. My takeaway though is that the next generation consoles are just taking audio quality to the next level, and that's good for everybody. Now moving on, there was one other controversy happening over the weekend because Nintendo seemingly is upset with Sony over Media Molecule's newest game, Dreams. See, Dreams is more of a very user-friendly game engine rather than just being your typical game. And we have seen the Dreams user base create some highly impressive games because yes, Dreams is a phenomenal creator tool. Well, that's the thing. Fans, of course, have been making games or using mascots from other games to make a brand new game. We've seen Sonic in Dreams, we've seen Metal Gear Solid, Dead Space, PT, and really the list just goes on and on. And this is something that I was curious about before it launched because how do you avoid getting into legal trouble when you create games from IP that you don't actually own? Well, Nintendo is the first company to come forward and has had Sony remove a Mario creation on Dreams. Now, I don't actually find this surprising at all, really. Nintendo has always been super protective over their IP, and in the past we've seen them take down user-created content such as Pokemon games. So when you have a Mario game on a competitor's gaming platform, I'm sure Nintendo has taken notice of this. Nintendo wants you to play their IP on the Nintendo Switch, not on the PlayStation 4. Now, there is an argument that Dreams isn't actually selling the game, but that's not really the point. Dreams in itself is being sold on a competitor platform, and Nintendo doesn't like the idea of their IP on the PlayStation console. That begs the question though, will other publishers come forward and do the same thing? Will they too file a copyright claim? I do think that is very possible. So far, we have seen users create some highly impressive games using existing IP or mascots. Though I will say that even though I'm calling them impressive, that doesn't necessarily mean they're fun or as high quality as a game made by an actual developer, but again, that really isn't the point. What do you think though? Do you agree with Nintendo for having Mario removed from Dreams? And do you think other publishers will follow suit? Let me know in the comments below. Now, since we're on the topic of Nintendo, Animal Crossing has reportedly had a fantastic launch over in the UK, having 3.5 times more games sold than the launch of Animal Crossing New Leaf on the 3DS, which was also a very successful game. That is a massive jump though, but that isn't the surprising part here. What surprised me is that Animal Crossing New Horizons is the single biggest launch out of any Nintendo Switch game in the UK. That means so far it's selling faster than Breath of the Wild, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mario Kart 8, and even Pokemon. Now, granted, if you combine Pokemon Sword and Shield, maybe not so much, but as an individual title, New Horizons is the fastest selling Nintendo Switch game, or at least in the UK. That really goes to show you how big of a franchise Animal Crossing truly is, and it looks like Nintendo will once again have another 20 million plus seller on their hands. I really have never seen a console have so much success in terms of games sold. The Switch has been an astronomical success when it comes to selling their first-party IP. It's crazy, really. Now, one last thing I want to talk about real quick is Project xCloud, because it's taking another big step forward in progress as Microsoft employees will now be able to play xCloud on their own PC. That means that users will likely be able to do this soon as well, more than likely through some kind of beta or something like that. That's really good news, and even though we have seen Google kind of fumble and bumble their way through Google Stadia, so far Microsoft has done a good job with xCloud. It runs great on my phone, and here soon fans will be able to play Xbox games on their PC with Project xCloud. Oh, actually, there is one last thing I want to cover real quick, but Dynamic Voltage Games is set to announce a new exclusive title for the Xbox Series X this week. It's apparently going to be 4K 120 frames per second, and we should get an announcement relatively soon. I've never played any other games myself, but I'll be curious to see what it is. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Peace out.